We're on lesson 1 of chapter 5, which is to solve addition and subtraction inequalities. First, we'll write inequalities from graphs, then we'll solve inequalities with addition and subtraction, then we'll do a real-world problem. What sets apart inequalities from equations is that equations like this example only have one solution to the problem. If x equals negative 3, x is always going to be negative 3 and nothing else. Inequalities, however, have more than one solution. For example, if you look at x is greater than or equal to negative 2, x could equal negative 2 or anything that is greater than that. So negative 1 would be a solution, as would 3 or 4.5 or anything above negative 2. X is less than or equal to negative 2, same thing. It could be negative 2 or anything that is less than that. We have x is greater than negative 2 here. What makes this a little bit different is that x can't equal negative 2. It has to be negative 1.9999999 or anything greater than that. X is less than negative 2, it would have to be negative 2.000001 or less than that. So it asks us to write an inequality represented by these graphs. Here I see an open circle between negative 6 and negative 7. Remember, the open circle means greater than or less than without the equal to sign. So here I have greater than or less than negative 6.5, and we see that it's going to be greater than because it's everything that is larger than negative 6.5. For example, negative 3 is greater value than negative 6.5. So if we're going to write this as an equation, we'll use x for our variable. X is going to be, we would say, greater than, and then negative 6.5. Here for this one I see a closed circle at positive 4. Remember, closed circles mean greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. But the arrow is pointing in the left direction here, and I know that 2 is less than 4, as is 3. So if we're going to say x here, the value of x is less than or equal to, so we'll do a line under that, and we're going to say positive 4. And that would be our inequality for that. Here we're asked to do addition and subtraction with these inequalities, and it's very similar to an equation in that just like you have the equal sign in an equation, you have a inequality symbol greater than or equal to or less than or equal to in the middle, and you want to isolate that x. So here we have x minus 5 is greater than negative 3.5. We could isolate the x by adding 5 to both sides. So we would have x is greater than negative 3.5 plus 5, which is positive 1.5. If we're going to chart this then, I see this is really close to 0, so I'm just going to make 0 my middle number, and we'll count by ones here. 3 and 4, and then make these negatives, negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. I need to have my point at 1.5, but I see this as a greater than sign, which means that it's got to be an open circle and not a closed circle. So that's what I'm going to create at positive 1.5. So right here. And as I draw my line, I want to go to the greater than 1.5. So I want to go to all these numbers that are larger than 1.5 and keep my arrow going. Same thing over here. We have 9 is greater than or equal to x plus 7. Or you could say it like this, x plus 7 is less than or equal to 9. So if I'm going to isolate this x, I would subtract 7 from both sides, which would give me 9 minus 7, which is 2, is greater than or equal to, and we would say x. Another way of saying that is x is less than or equal to 2. Since 2 is close to 0, I'll use 0 as my center point again. So 0, 1 over here, 2, 3, and 4. Then going backwards, we'd have negative 1, negative 2, and negative 3. I'm going to do a closed circle this time at positive 2, and that's because of the equal to sign there. And if I see that x is less than or equal to 2, I need to go in the left direction here with my arrow. So that's where we'll go. All these answers to the left of 2 would be acceptable answers or acceptable solutions to this inequality. Here we have a real-world situation. It says you are checking a bag at an airport. Bags can weigh no more than 50 pounds. That tells me a lot of information. Your bag weighs 16.8 pounds. Find the possible weights W in pounds that you can add in the bag. So it tells us the variable to use, which is W. That's the weights we can add. And since the bag can weigh no more than 50 pounds, the possible weights we could add, it has to be less than or equal to 50. I say less than or equal to because your bag can be 50 pounds, it just can't be 50.1 pounds. But you have to remember that we already have 16.8 pounds in the bag, so the weight and your 16.8 have to be less than or equal to 50 total pounds. And now this is like an addition inequality where we can subtract both sides, 16.8 minus 16.8. So our weight we can add has to be less than or equal to 50 minus 16.8, which is 33.2. So the weight we can add has to be less than or equal to 33.2 pounds. So we could add 33.2, but we can't add 33.3, for example. So it has to be less than that or equal to it.